Welcome back to the show. My name is Kirby Johnson. Over there we have
Sanil.
And over here,
Cristiano
Ronaldo. And our resident white,
Kirby Johnston.
Shit.
Sam Burnett.
He appropriated your name.
It's over.
Lock me up now.
I'm taking you to the plantation.
Look, we gotta guess.
Well, no, it's fine because this is the energy that that our guest is going to bring with us today. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell people who you are and why they should care about you.
What's going on? It's your boy Manny the God, Manny's Mania. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. They banished me from TikTok twice.
No way.
So you can't find me there anymore. But yeah, I mean, I think I've racked up probably 500,000 followers on that platform and lost them all twice. So it is what it is.
What'd you do?
I would say they really banned me for being black, but you know, they say
That's exactly what I said.
I'm on TikTok, but maybe they haven't registered my skin color yet.
Yeah. No, but you ain't as active. So Manny and me go way back. This is my boy. He is a hilarious guy. I wanted you to come on here, Manny, just because, you know, we the Men on the Internet podcast, and you've been a big ride or die supporter of us for some time. I know you've been saying you want to be on the show, but now we finally ready for that Manny's energy. But you guys need to go to his Instagram. He has some of the funniest skits. He has a YouTube channel, and he just be doing story times. It's a lot. So, you know, comedian, skit maker. I don't even know what to call him at this point.
Are you an influencer?
I mean, I definitely influence people to do bad things sometimes. You know what I mean? So you could call me an influencer. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. So Manny, starting off with your comedy. All right. So the other day we saw Dave Chappelle at the Hollywood Bowl get attacked by a human being, and is that something that you're legitimately scared of? Because you know you kind of put out some of the type of content that you put out might offend somebody. So do you think somebody will run up on you and smack you in the face?
I personally don't think that would happen, just because, like, a lot of times, because people only see me on my page and shit, but like the people that I be around, they would never allow no shit like that. Like if somebody did that, they would get shot like so quick. Dave
Chappelle's people handled that with a quickness too, man. That dude looked like. Remember from the Ring, where that woman was walking out of the TV? Like those arms started looking like that. I was like, man, they really stomped the dude back there.
Dave stomped him too. He was back there stomping him.
He's like, hold up real quick. I gotta handle something real quick.
Dave went back there and got some stomps in. I was proud. I was like, yeah, that's my OG. That's my OG right there.
Yo, but Manny, obviously we saw Will Smith probably start the wave by going up, you know, smacking Chris Rock for saying something that offended him. It seems like the person that went after Dave Chappelle had a social media following, he's part of the LGBTQ plus community, and took offense to some of those trans jokes. So coming up in the industry where you have that same kind of edgy type of energy when it comes to your jokes, how do you balance that? Like, what do you think? Do you think society has just gotten, like, are they even allowing comedians to be funny anymore? Or how do you approach that now, knowing that anybody could be out here crazy, offended, and they're kind of uplifting people to be sensitive and, you know, go after comedians?
I mean, I definitely walk a fine line every day. As far as like what I put out, I got in trouble actually for fucking with the LGBTQ community before. I did a video and I was like talking to God in heaven, and I said that it was a pride parade, and they sent a unicorn after me, and because I was playing the baby. And I shit you not, bro, I was getting reported nonstop. I had to make my page private, and so I had to make my page private because literally, like, I kept getting notifications from Instagram. I was getting logged out randomly, and so I was just so scared. I just made my page private. And then everybody thought I died because literally right after that, that's when the police arrested me for disorderly conduct in Towson, Maryland, because I told the cops she was a bitch ass nigga. But I have a reason why I did that. So
explain it to the folks.
So-
at home.
Please
So this is
elaborate.
what-
Yeah,
Yes.
explain, please.
'Cause some officers do be that.
this is what was going down. So
Uh-huh.
so literally the night before, I was drinking with my friends because I was sad about this girl that I broke up with and shit. And I was super drunk,
Wait,
and
you
I
were
was
sad that you broke up with her.
well, because I had to, because she told me. Listen, she told me she was 21, but then when I did some more digging,
Oh yeah.
so I was like,
Yeah.
damn, like you really lied to me. I can't even take you to the bar. You're a
Mhm,
fuck.
mhm.
But you know what I mean. I'm scared to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Fuck me up about it.
Thank y'all for watching. I
Oh
really appreciate it.
man!
Thanks for tuning in.
Yo, you do know this is going on the internet, like all the way.
Thanks for watching our last episode of Men on the Internet. I appreciate
We
it.
gon'
Serious finale
Oh my
right
God.
here.
Oh, listen.
We gonna put
Listen,
a
so-
red like
Yeah.
a line through that.
So-
We gonna just put a red line
anyways,
through
back to
through
the
whole
cops.
thing.
Back to
Yeah.
the cops. So you
Yeah.
upset?
No, I was
You
still-
obviously hurt. So
Right.
you
So
go
I
through
was hurt.
emotions.
And so I'm going through these emotions. Now I'm driving home drunk, right? But I'm like, let me stop and get a black and mild.
Yo, this ain't supposed to be a Vlad interview right now, bro. Like, this is supposed to be Vlad TV.
Let him talk. Go ahead.
Look.
So you're driving drunk and you stop for a black and mild.
Right.
We've all been there
That's-
before, right?
Yeah.
I stopped for a black and mild. And at the time too, I was beefing with this other comedian because he put me on, like he was trying to get me onto his show. He was like, yo, come out and do this stand up. And I'm gonna pay you $1,000 to do the stand up. And I'm like, all right, cool. And so I'm preparing to do the stand up, and then he postpones it like a month. So I was pissed. And then I was like, we was on the phone, and he told me, he was like, yo, you lucky I got a daughter, or I'll up a pole on you. So that's why I was really out there with my bros, because I'm like, yo, I'm outside. I'm like, yo, pull up and do what you said you was gonna do. So that's what I was doing. So I stop, I go to the gas station, and as I'm going in, it's this dude in his car. I'm like, yo, what's up, bro? He's like, what you want? And I'm like, nothing, dog. I'm just saying what's up. He gets out of his car, runs up to me, punches me. I'm too drunk to fight at this point. I'm like, yo, I can't fight you, bro. So I back off. He goes in his Gucci bag and ups a gun at me. And so I'm like, I'm too far to like fight him or tussle him for the gun. So I start running zigzag. I start just Saquon Barkley and up the street like this. And I probably look stupid, but when I look to my right, I see the police. You know what I mean? And this dude is chasing me with a gun. And so he gets back in his car, chases me up the street. And so I had to hide behind the Staples. And so the whole time I'm like, yo, the police was right there. And then somebody took my car while I was running, because I left the car running in my drunken stupidness. So the next day I go to the Verizon store, and the Verizon store was closed. So I go to the Dunkin' Donuts across the street, and I'm like, yo, can you guys charge my phone? I had another phone that I was trying to get activated because my other phone was in the car. And the lady's like, no, we don't charge phones. I'm like, yo, come on, bro. I got robbed last night. I'm like, please just help me out. And so the lady gets like rude with me. She's like, no, if you're not by, you have to leave. And I'm like, fuck you, lady. I'm like, you can suck my dick. And so I start cussing her out and everything. And so then they call the police. So the police come. And
Oh man, please don't freeze.
when they get there, they're like,
Please
can we
don't
help you? I'm
freeze.
like, yeah, can you charge my phone for me? I just
there we
need to
go.
get my phone charged. And the cop is like, no. I'm like, all right, well, then you can't help me. And I was like, and matter of fact, I had a nigga up a pole on me last night, and you bitch ass niggas didn't do nothing. I'm like, yo, y'all some bitch ass niggas. And so as soon as I said that, she started running at me.
So this is the cop, because you froze out for a little bit. So they called I'm assuming in between, Verizon called the cops on you.
No,
And then
Dunkin'
you talking
Donuts
to the
called the
cops.
cops.
Oh, Dunkin' Donuts called the cops.
Right. So Dunkin' Donuts called the cops.
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts called the cops, and now you talking to the cops.
Now I'm talking to the cops, and And I'm like, can you charge my phone for me? She's like, no. And I'm like, all right, well, then you can't help me. I'm like, y'all talk about y'all public servants. Y'all don't serve shit. I'm like, yo, I'm like, a nigga just robbed me last night, took my car, and y'all niggas was across the street. I'm like, what the fuck you doing here fucking with me? I'm just in Dunkin' Donuts cussing the lady out because she deserve it. And so I'm like, but I'm still drunk from the night before. You feel me? I'm still drunk when I'm talking to the cop. And so I'm like, y'all some bitch ass niggas. I'm like 20 feet from the cop. She starts running at me full speed. I'll never forget her name, Officer Kalani. She starts running at me full speed. And I start running the other way. So now I'm running up Joppa Road. And I'm like, I'm running in the middle of the street. I'm telling people, I'm like, yo, the cop's chasing me. Like, let me get a ride. Everybody's just skirting off on me. I'm like, damn, there's no love for the boy in the city. I'm like, I hate it here. So they end up catching me. And then they took me to the little like precinct or whatever. Then the judge is like, oh, you have I see the judge on like the little Zoom call or whatever. And he's like, oh, you have an open case in LA and you're a flight risk. And so he's like, so your bail is $5,000. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm like, cool. I got 500 in my bank account. No issue. I'm like, I could pay that bill. So let me just use the phone. I'm gonna call the bail bond. They never let me use the phone. So I get to the county jail. They don't let me use the phone. They have me sitting there for like 6 hours. And I could see the clock from my little holding cell or whatever. So I knew I was in there for 6 hours. And so I got pissed off. And so I flooded the cell. And so once I flooded the cell, I like took my shirt off.
So to us that don't understand what that means, explain.
Okay, so I took my shirt off. I stuffed it in the toilet and I flushed it a bunch of times until all the water came out.
So Manny, let me ask you, all right? So at this point, I'm assuming you have sobered up, right? This is a long time between when you started drinking and when you stopped drinking. So tell me, put me in the mindset of Manny in the cell for 6 hours and deciding, I'm in this cell, I'm going to just flood this shit. Like, what is the thought process from that to that?
So I'm thinking, mind you, I wasn't in my right mind, right? Because I was losing it. I was, I'm bipolar. So I was having like an episode. Right. So I was turned up, and to the point where I'm thinking like, all right, I remember because I think I watched this movie when I was a kid. It was like Moses Field of Dreams or some shit. He was locked up and he flooded the whole shit, and that's how he ended up getting out. So I'm like, if I flood this motherfucker...
So this is your attempt to break out this joint.
Escape attempt.
This is an escape attempt.
No, for sure.
No, that's very brilliant. It's like he's on 24.
In that case, never mind.
All right, so you really at this point being really resourceful, because all you had was the shirt on your back and there's a toilet here that they gave you. So you MacGyvering this shit right now.
Exactly.
On point, you like...
I'm like, if I flood this whole place, they're going to have to let us all out, and then I'll just sneak away from the crowd. That's what I'm thinking in my head. You feel me?
That's it.
It makes a lot of sense when you put it that way.
Honestly.
That's not how it worked out, though. It was this...
damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It was this big, giant CO. I forget his name.
How did Scooby-Doo stop this?
Yeah.
So the CO comes in the cell, and he's ready to beat on me, right? So I hear him. He's like, cut the cameras off. And so I'm like, oh shit, he ready to fuck me up. So I'm like, yo, what you ready to punch me, bro? I'm not even moving, bro. I'm like, bro, what you ready to punch on me, bro? I'm like, bro, chill, bro. Don't hit me, bro. I'm not a threat.
How much water is in your cell at this point?
It's all flooded. So the whole cell is flooded out. The water's leaving the cell.
Shoes at this point? Or do they
I got my shoes on.
Okay.
Yeah, I got my shoes on. So then he comes, he gets me. That's when they put me in the little jailhouse jumper, and he made me squat and shit. That was the first time I ever had to squat and cough and shit. So I'm like, yo, this is gay. So then they had me in the they put me in a different holding cell, and so I tried to flood that one. Now, when I tried to flood...
you thought, hey, it didn't work once, but if I do it again, this might work this time?
Try again.
Wait, did you use your pants this time? Or
so what do you have? Did they give you your shirt back? Like,
No. So I took the jumper off. Now I'm butt naked. And so I just
This is the
I
jail's
flooded
fault.
the cell with the jumper.
that's
So
stupid.
I'm like,
They're a bunch
yo,
of
Why would they do
idiots.
that?
hold up, y'all are frozen.
You freeze up again.
All right, you're gonna come back in a second.
All right, cool.
There
So
go.
you froze up, but at this point
Right.
you butt naked in the cell.
So now I'm butt naked, right? So I flood the cell with the jumper. CO again comes in the cell. He's like, put that jumper
Same
on.
CO?
And I'm like, same CO. Same
Okay.
CO. So I'm like, yo, I'm not putting that jumper on. It's wet. I'm like, yo. He's like, and so,
Keep going, man. Keep going, Manny.
so I'm like,
Go on.
I'm like, bro, I'm not putting that jumper on. It's wet. He's like, you're either gonna put that jumper on or I'm gonna put it on you. And I'm like, all right, that's gay. I'm gonna put the jumper on myself. So I put the cold, wet jumper on, and they moved me to it. They moved me to another cell with no water. So they cut the water off from this cell.
So at this point,
They're
Manny,
getting smart.
Hey, at this point, Manny, I gotta admit, the jail is outsmarting you right now because
They're outsmarting They're outsmarting me completely, right? They're outsmarting me.
So your game plan was to flood the cell twice to get out. Now you just in a wet jumpsuit with no water, access to water.
No water, no access to water, nothing. And so now I'm freezing cold. I'm in this holding cell, bro. And then they bring me and then they bring me a public defender, right? And so at this time I'm caked up because I was finessing unemployment and I was selling shit that I wasn't really supposed to sell. Now I'm not gonna say on here, but I was caked up.
Yeah, I'm glad you finally caught on that this is actually going over the internet. Wait, Manny, you ain't got nothing open right now, right?
Next question.
Cut that part.
All right,
Yo,
we
so
will
look.
do some heavy. We will do some heavy editing just to protect you, my
A lot
guy.
of beep,
Look,
beep,
look,
beeps
look.
up in this thing.
So they bring me a public defender and I'm like, no, I don't want the public defender. I can get my own lawyer. So I'm like, yo, I want to be able to call and get my own lawyer. So they're like, okay. Then they come and get me. They're like, you got court. I'm like, but y'all didn't let me call my lawyer. I don't have a lawyer up here. And so they're like, well, you decline the public defender. So I show up to court. The judge is on the screen. He's like, how come you don't have representation? I'm like, they didn't let me use the phone to call my lawyer. And so he's like, all right, we're going to postpone till Monday. So now I'm in this bitch until Monday. So I'm like, fuck. So then they bring me up. I guess I was spazzing and shit. So I was like banging on the wall and shit. So they brought me to the psych tier. Now we get to the psych tier. I had this cell buddy that was like this light-skinned dude, and he swore he knew Drake and Dirk and everybody like that was in the industry. And I'm like, nigga, you don't know anybody. And then he asked me if I was gangbanging, and I'm like, no, I don't gangbang. But when I'm with my niggas that do gangbang, I throw up whatever they throw up because I'm allowed to. I'm like, listen, yo, I got a lot of Crip friends. They let me do what I do, and that's just that. So then he was like, yo, you know Grape Street Crips? And I was like, yeah, those are, I know a couple Grape Street Crips. He was like, they some bitches. And I was like, bro, like, why would you disrespect the guys like that? And then I got into it with another dude that was on our cell block because he wouldn't give my cell buddy no noodles, and he had the noodles. So we was beefing. You feel me? I'm like, yo, we beefing. I'm like, yo, if you play with my cell buddy, I'm like, cause I never been to jail, but I was told these rules. You feel me? These rules is like, yo, you and your cell buddy, y'all ride or die together. So I'm like,
Gotcha.
all right, if he beefing with you, then I'm beefing with you. So I'm beefing with this dude about some noodles that I don't even know. And then the next day, they like call up to the cell. They're like, yo, you're moving cells. And he's like, okay. I'm like, what the fuck you mean, okay? I'm like, nigga, you my cell buddy until we both get the fuck out of here. I'm like, yo, how you gonna just leave me and now I'm beefing with random niggas about you? So he leaves the cell. But like before he left the cell, I beat him up. Like I fucked him up. Like I whooped his ass.
Manny, I don't mean to make you get off topic, but I kind of want to find out. So, what was this dude saying about like that he knew Drake and Dirk? Like, was there any validity?
So, cause when I'm manic,
that's your cell buddy, right? The dude that you just told us you beat up, he also might be the plug to Drake for you.
Right. So I'm thinking, so when I'm manic, I'm a rapper for real in real life. Like I got bars for days. So I'm like, okay. I'm in that bitch banging on the wall, rapping and shit. Niggas is hearing at the other cells. They fucking with it. So I'm like, so then he's like, bro, I know Drake, I know Dirk, all them niggas. He's like, yo, Dirk don't ever even call me back on the jail phone and shit. I'm like, bro, you don't know Drake. I'm like, you don't know Dirk or nobody. So eventually we figured out that he was just capping, but I beat him up. I beat him up because when they told him he was moving cells, I was like, bro, because I took the top bunk when I first got in there, but I told him, I was like, bro, I'm gonna take top bunk because you already in here, but I'm not no bitch. That's what I said to him, because that's what my bros told me to say. If you ever got to take the top bunk, just let him know you're not a bitch about it. You feel me? So I'm like, I'm following the rules. I'm like just going through my progressions. And so I tell him, I'm like, yo, I'm not a bitch. And then when he was moving cells, I was like, bro, you a bitch, bro. I'm like, yo, you got me in here beefing with niggas about some noodles, and now you just gonna change cells because the CO said so. And he like bucked at me like this. So I was like, yo, what you think this is? So I just start beating on him. Like I just start just whacking him. And then I took the bottom bunk. Right after that. I'm like, yo, this is my bunk now. You got top bunk. So the COs,
so they didn't move him?
The COs come in there to move him, and they're like, bring your mat with you. And I'm sitting on his mat. So he's like, yo, you sitting on my mat? I'm like, nah, I don't know what you talking about. I'm like, bro, your mat on the top. He's like, he look at the CO. He like, yo, come on, CO. He probably beat off on there. And I'm like, I did beat off on there, but that's your mat though. And so the CO is like, yo, it's not worth it. Just come on. He's like, yo, he didn't bitch me for no mat, bro. So then he went and told everybody on the cell block that I was a bitch and everything. So now I'm basically beefing with the whole cell block. And like, yo, they ended up moving me to this other cell. I couldn't see the TV. And it got so bad that I had detached from reality. Like I was convinced that I wasn't even in jail. Like I was convinced that I was on a reality TV show. And like, you know what I mean? And so they wouldn't let me
like asides and stuff. Like you were talking into the window, like it was a camera, and like giving asides.
Yeah, like I'm like okay. So this is what I was doing. So they had a little button where you could call the CO and talk to the CO that was at the desk. I'm talking to my maniacs, like I'm talking to the gang, like through the. I'm like, yo, like gang,
you thought you were streaming live to your people.
I'm streaming live. I'm streaming live. So the CO comes to my cell. He's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, I'm talking to my audience, bro. Chill out. Like, yo, I'm talking to my audience. They know I've lost it at this point, right? So it was like 9 days they wouldn't let me out of my cell. So I'm in that bitch stinking. I'm working out the whole time though, but I smell crazy. So I'm like, yo, I need a shower. So I just start banging on the door like repeatedly. Like I'm like, yo, I need a shower. I'm like, I don't know why y'all not letting me out. I'm like, I was supposed to be at my trailer 30 minutes ago. I got to be at a party. You know what I mean? And you niggas is holding me up. I'm like, you niggas is holding me up, bro. I got plans. I'm like, the bitches just hit my phone. I had a phone in my hand. Like, yo, bitches just hit my phone.
That's that new Nokia flip phone, right? That's the Nokia flip phone.
Like, bro, the bitches is on their way to pick me up. I gotta be at my trailer. I gotta shower. I'm like, you niggas got me fucked up. So the COs come. They like sit down. They like sit down. I'm like, I'm not sitting down. I'm like, I run this show. I'm like, I'm Manny the God. I'm like, I'm the star of this show. You niggas are gonna respect me. So the CO opens the flap and maces me in the face, like just maces me.
Oh my God.
I'm like, so I'm like freaking out. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? I'm like, get the director down here right now. I'm like, yo, I'm off this show. I'm like, yo, get the director down here.
Off this show.
I'm like, yo,
I'm done. This is too much.
The director. I'm like, listen, if you niggas don't get the director down here, I'm gonna sue the fuck out you. I'm like, yo, y'all can't release this. I'm like, yo, y'all cannot release this. This is not going on no network. I'm like, yo. I'm like, yo, this is... And then they had these, like, the CEOs had these like little Aryan like pins on their thing. So I'm like, yo, this is supposed to go on the Aryan network. I'm like, yo, I'm not signing the deal. I'm like, if y'all release this, I'm suing you. So they looking at me like I'm crazy at this point, right? So then, you know, I finally, like, I talked to the sergeant lady, and I was like, because then I'm thinking, because I told y'all the dude upped the gun on me right before I got arrested,
Right.
and so I'm thinking like, yo,
up the pole.
I'm thinking, yeah, he upped the pole. So I'm like, so I'm thinking,
I remember because that was a big deal. Like you was doing video after video about up in the pole. So I remember that moment.
So I'm thinking, I'm like, yo, he must have shot me, and I'm in hell. I'm like, yo, God really sent me to hell, because I'm like, yo, he must have not fucked with the videos. So I'm like, yo. So I talked to the lieutenant. I'm like, yo, Lieutenant Copper, am I in hell? And she looks me right in my face, and she's like, yes, you are. And I'm like, yo. So then I'm like, how do I get out of this place? I'm like, yo, I got to make God proud. I'm like, yo, the CO's got to be demons if this is hell. So I'm like, I got to fight these demons. So the CO, so the COs, they had me in my cell, like, butt naked. Like, they took my jumper, everything, because I wouldn't talk to the therapist lady because I got my own therapist. So she kept putting me on suicide watch. So I'm butt naked. And the COs are gay. Like, they're gay. So they're walking past. They would, like, be doing their little check, and they would stare at me.
That makes sense.
They would stare at me like this. They would be like, are you good? Are you good? And I'd be like, yo, keep it pushing, bro. I'm in here ass naked, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, so then I put toilet paper on the windows, and I covered the cameras with toilet paper, because I'm like, yo, they just looking at me naked in here. They're gay. So I'm like, yo, I'm not doing it. So then the CO comes, and he's like the Lieutenant Copper, she's like, take the toilet paper off the window. And I'm like, no. I'm like, yo, the COs are gay. They looking at me. I'm like, this is gay. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not taking off the toilet paper. So when they opened the cell door, he reached in to take the toilet paper off, and I just started wailing on his arm. I just started, like, punching his arm and shit, and, like, just trying to fight him. And then they was about to mace me again, but I had already got the mace, like, twice at this point. So I was like, I backed off. I was like, yo, chill, don't mace me. And so that's when they put me on restriction. Now, restriction was sweet, though, because I got to leave my cell for 15 minutes a day, but it was, like, mad supervised. You know what I mean? Like, it was supervised as hell. But before that, I couldn't leave my cell. I couldn't even shower. So I was like, then I got the shower. That's when I started, like, kind of get my normalcy back. You feel me? I started to snap back to reality, because one of the COs came to me, and he was like, bro, you not on a reality TV show. You not in hell, but your ass is definitely in the county jail. He was like, listen. He's like,
Manny, when you started snapping back, what was that like feeling like for you? Like, so how long are you in at this point?
I'm in there for like 19 days now when I started regaining my sanity.
So once you realizing, oh man, like I'm in jail, and you know I'm in county, and I'm over here in restriction, and I don't know how I'm gonna get out. Like, what thoughts were going through your head at this point?
So now I'm thinking like, all right, what do they have me in here for? And for the first 19 days, I was thinking they were trying to build a RICO on me, because I was, like I said, I was selling shit I wasn't supposed to sell. And there was like people that looked exactly like the people that I was doing it with in there, and they were trying to talk to me. So I'm thinking, yo, is this my bro? I'm like, they got us all locked up. I'm like, we're fucked. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, we're fucked. So I realized that the people that was in there wasn't actually the people that I knew. And so I'm like, yo, they got plants in here trying to get information on me. So then I'm thinking like, yo, they're trying to build a RICO on me. And I'm like writing on the walls. I'm like piecing it together. Like, I'm like, yo, they got my bro in here. They got him in here. Everybody's in here. You know what I mean? I'm like, I got all this writing on the walls, like all the evidence that you could ever imagine.
Literally, that you could ever imagine. Because ain't none of this stuff really happening.
Names, addresses.
Names,
You
addresses, what we did,
you
all
really
of
building the case against
Oh
you
my
at this
gosh.
point.
That's
I'm
crazy.
building the case. It was me building the case.
You're
So
the
once I
cops,
started
the
to
lawyer,
regain,
the judge, the prosecutor.
Oh,
You're Batman. Vengeance.
so once I start to regain my sanity, I realize I'm like, shit, I gotta wipe these walls down because I'm like, I can really get in trouble.
I just dry snitched on everybody.
I'm curious
I'm
what
like-
you're gonna use to wipe the things off the wall.
So-
Right, the jumper.
Yes.
No. So one of the COs was cool. He got me because they wasn't letting me shower and shit. So he got me shampoo and like a rag and shit. So he got me 2 rags. So I was using the one rag to clean up, and the other rag to like clean myself, like at the toilet and shit. I was just using the toilet to like just wash my armpits and shit.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
I wiped the walls down so they couldn't get the evidence. And that's when I started
What
to
did
realize
you
I'm like,
use to write on the wall?
I found a pencil, like I found like
okay.
3 pencils underneath my mattress and shit. Like you could I found a shank in there too. Like I found a shank in there. I kept that. And I made another one with my little baby toothbrush because the CO, I was talking shit to the CO and he was like, I could pop your cell and have everybody run in there and beat the shit out you. So I made the shank and I was like, CO, you could send these niggas to their death if you want to, but I'm a real killer in here. I'm like, yo, I'm not playing. So I'm like,
Is that
yo,
what
I
they
got
told you to say, or they changed you to
I'm
say
like-
that?
Is that
I'm
on
like,
the
yo,
script?
Yes.
I'm like, yo, I am a real killer in here. I'm like, you gonna have a lot of blood on your hands because I'm not playing about my life. So I had the shanks in there and everything. And once I started to realize, I'm like, all right, I started talking to the therapists real nice. You feel me? And they was like, they took me off the little watches. That's when I started to get like my stuff back. I got my property. They let me have like thermals and shit because the cell was mad cold. They gave me books. And so now I'm just waiting it out. You feel me? And the COs for some reason was telling the judge that I was refusing to go to court. So I missed like 4 court dates. And my mom didn't know what was going on. She didn't want to pay my bail because they wouldn't tell her what I did. She thought I killed somebody and she thought I was going to run off or something. So I'm like, I was just stuck in there. She didn't want to pay my bail. And then they told her that I was refusing to go to court. And so once I filed a habeas corpus through the jail. So I requested the habeas corpus to get a speedy trial. And I gave it to the one CO that I knew was going to send it through. And so once they seen that, that's when I talked to this therapist on like a Zoom call. He was like, yo, you seem really cognitive. I'm like, I am. I'm like, I'm normal. I don't know what these people are talking about. The whole time I was snapping I was being crazy the whole time.
And you knew you was being crazy, but you
I
was
knew
like,
I was. Yeah, I knew I was. But I was acting at this point. I was acting.
Right.
So I'm like, so then he's like, all right, cool. I'm going to talk to the judge. We're going to get you a speedy trial. And so when my court date came up, it was like a random like Monday. And I was like, cool. So then I finally talked to the public defender. She's like, why have you been in there for 45 days for disorderly conduct? It was for disorderly conduct. Like I had to realize what I was charged with. I was like, yo, they never gave my charging documents. That's why I was convinced they were building a RICO. I was like, yo, they're building a RICO. I was like, this is a RICO. I'm like, I'm fucked. I'm like, we're going to jail. Everybody's going to jail. So I'm like, yeah. So it was just disorderly conduct. So as soon as I went to court that day, they let me out that same day because the judge was like, you've done more time than anybody would have ever done for this crime. So then I finally got out of jail. And bro, when I finally got on my phone, it was like I had probably like 1,000 messages from my fans like, yo, are you dead? Like, are you like, what happened to you? Like, we have.
That was a bunch from me. I don't know if you
Yeah,
read
like
those. That was a bunch from me, bro.
People were like, yo, what happened to you? And that's when I was like, yo, I was in jail. Like, I was in jail. Like, I don't know. And so that was the end of that situation. So then when I went to court.
At what point did you get your sanity back?
I got my sanity back, I think I was fully back at day 25. But from day 1 to day 25, I was in a whole other world. Like, I think I met Pooh Shiesty. I met Drake, I met Dirk, I met everybody. And like I remember too, the CO told me like the one CO that was cool, he was like, you don't remember what you told me? I was like, what did I tell you? He was like, I came to your cell and asked you who you was talking to, and you said, he said, you said, you don't see Pooh Shiesty in here and Drake and Dirk, they in here singing, they annoying as shit. Like I was like, I was just like losing it.
So Manny, like, how much content were you able to create from those
I haven't
45
made-
days?
The thing is, I haven't made no jail content because I like those are still scars that I'm like healing from, and I don't want to get I don't want like somebody to say the wrong thing and I'll lash out on them because like I don't really release stuff that I'm still dealing with because I did that before and I didn't get the response I wanted, and that shit just made me angry. So I'm like, nah, let me heal from this first. And then I can.
How many days did it feel like? Like looking back, like how long did it really feel like you was in there?
I was convinced I was in there for 7 years. So when I first got in the cell, there was already writing on the walls, and there was somebody had a calendar, like they were drawing on there, and it was like 7 years worth of tallies. So I'm like, yo, these niggas. So like, I'm like, yo, these niggas have had me in here for 7 years. I'm like, but then I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, I don't age. You know what I mean? So then I'm like, I'm really.
I really am a god.
I'm like, I'm ready to God. I'm like, yo, I can't die. You know what I mean?
No, that makes sense. That really connects with me.
I'm like, yo, I don't age. I'm like, yo, I can't age. I'm like, these niggas are trying to kill me, but I can't die. And then it was a bunch of days where the COs were petty and they would do shit like if I was asleep, they would give my food to somebody else and act like there was no mealtime. So I would be like, yo, where's my food? And they'd be like, what are you talking about? And I'd be like, yo, I didn't eat today. And they'd be like, yeah, you did. Like they would just play with me like that. And I would be like, yo, what the fuck? So then I would just start like banging on the wall again. I'd be like, I need some food.
That was like
yeah,
your go-to, right? Like, I'm gonna bang on the wall. Like if I need something, I'm gonna bang on this wall.
The shit I was always saying to them, I would be like, yo, if I gotta be in hell, y'all gotta be in hell with me. So I'm like, yo, if it's hell for me, it's gonna be hell for y'all. So y'all gonna hear this sound. And I could tell that, and my door could shake too. So I could shake the door and make like this booming sound, and like the whole jail could hear it. And so I could tell when I would do it, like it was aggravating the COs. So I was thinking like, all right, like, this is how I fuck with the demons down here. So I'm like, yo, this sound, they don't like the tombstone. I was thinking like, yo, it's a tombstone that I'm banging on and they hate that sound. So it makes them crazy. So I was just like doing it to just fuck with them. That was what I was telling myself, bro. It was crazy. I don't even know.
Yo, so Manny, I know when you got out, you put some stuff on social media where kind of like, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it seemed like you kind of
hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
Uh-oh. Hopefully he ain't gonna come out.
I'm starting to think that his first roommate maybe did see Drake. I don't know.
I'm starting to think the same thing as well.
I just want to point out you asked him one question.
Yeah,
he was off to the races.
Yeah,
It wasn't the police. It wasn't the police. It was my
Oh,
girl.
God. I was like, oh God.
I was very worried.
I'm like, dang, these hip hop police really be working quick.
Yeah.
I'm like, this ain't even live.
I said, let me talk to them. I'll get the back.
No, but back to what I was talking. So on social media, you kind of talked about how that it, not necessarily specific, but you really had conversation with God. Like it kind of put things in perspective for you. So talk about kind of like what was going on in there, and like now that you out and stuff, like what's the new thought process? Like what's the focus now?
Right. So basically when I was in there, after the CO told me that I was in hell, and they were trying to get me, I think some of the COs were trying to get me to kill myself. They were like, yo, the only way out of here is death. Like you have to just jump off that top bunk head first. And I wasn't about to do that. I was like, yo, I thought about it for a second, but then I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. And so I really sat there for probably like 10 hours, like just telling God, I'm like, yo, why do you have me here? I'm like, yo, why do you got me in hell? You know what I mean? And then I heard him. He's like, yo, you're not. He's like, you're not in hell. He's like, you're not in hell. And I think I was sitting. If I can remember correctly, I had got maced and they didn't treat me for the mace. And so I was blind, like I couldn't see. And so I'm like, yo, you let them take my vision. I was like, yo, you let them take my vision. I'm going to be blind forever now. Like, I'm like, yo, it's over for me. And he's like, you're not in hell. You're not blind. He's like, you're fine. He's like, you're absolutely fine. And he was like, remember you were at the Naval Academy and they maced you and you just put cold water in your eye and that's how it got better? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, so go to the toilet, get the cold water out of the toilet, put it in your eye. And so that's what I ended up doing. And I got like, so then I started to see again. And when I saw it was like, the water was like dirty. So I was like, fuck, it was disgusting. But it helped me get my vision back. So I was like, all right, OG, like you in here with me. So I'm like, yo, help me get out. So he was just telling me like, yo, just stay calm. Like you're going to get out soon. You know what I mean? And so that's when I started to really get my sanity back, was just talking to him. And so ever since I've been out, I think the main focus for me is just staying grounded and just staying out of trouble. Because when I get in those modes where I'm like super hyped up and like super aggressive, that's when I start like beefing with people and like doing dumb shit and like getting myself in situations that I got no business being in. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, I need to start really paying attention to what I'm doing, because one, it's a lot of kids that look up to me. You know what I mean? Like most of my fan base is like young men. And so I want to be able to like show them that, you know what I mean? We don't have to like do this dumb shit that really they want us to do. You know what I mean? They want us to get ourselves locked up or get ourselves killed and fight each other. And so ever since I've been out, I think I just been trying to just stay out of the way, stay humble, and just continue to just put out good content, because you know what I mean? I can put out good content and never shut the fuck up, but now I'm just putting out good content and I'm kind of shutting up. You know what I mean? I'm kind of just like, I'm not saying as much. I'm just letting my content speak for itself, where, you know, if anybody's hating on me, they're going to just continue to see me anyway. That's like pretty much my attitude towards it now. So I don't even get into it with the trolls. You know what I mean? If anybody sends me DMs aggressively, I just post it on my story. I let the gang take care of it. They got my back. So if anybody got beef with me, I just post it on my story. They get a bunch of aggressive DMs from my fans, and that's that. I don't even say nothing back no more. So that's it.
Nice, man.
Question for you. Was that your first experience going in?
What? In jail?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my second time being in jail. Mm-hmm. So the first time I was in jail, it was in LA. Sunil knows this story.
Yeah, let's not talk about that because it sounds way too similar to the. It's gonna make it sound like you got a pattern, bro.
Yeah.
We'll let it go.
Yeah, let that one pass.
So what's coming up for Manny? What's coming up? What's next?
What's next? So right now I'm really focused on building up my YouTube channel, because I feel like that's a way more stable platform. So getting my making more content for YouTube. So making longer content. I'm getting a little bit more creative, where like instead of just writing a script for just a POV video, like I want to start getting like other people involved, getting other people like scripts and things like that, so it could be a little bit more professional, like really just up in the ante on, you know, what we got going on, so that it can be something that not just, you know what I mean, a kid would watch, but anybody can watch. You know what I mean? Like real life scenarios, real life situations. And just kind of like exploring that avenue. I also I want to start making music. But I'm still learning how to make music. So I'm not like trying to put anything out right now until I have like a solid small catalog that I could like have ready for when people are like, "Oh, you're not a rapper." I could be like, "Really? Here's another single." You know what I mean? Like, here's another one. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And obviously continuing, you know what I mean, the heaven videos. Everybody loves the heaven videos, me trying to get into heaven. But I want to make Inside of Heaven more of like a production, where like we have other actors and things like that. So where, you know what I mean, it's more of like a cinematic production. For sure.
Okay. Hey, I wanted to ask because I hear that this is, a subject close to your heart.
So
When it comes to the ladies, all right, between LA and Baltimore, which do you find to resonate more with you?
resonate.
Resonate. He said it like he said it like he's been waiting for this question.
Enchanté.
I've been
Man.
waiting.
The thing about it, I think I would say LA. The reason why I say LA is because I'm from Baltimore. So it's like I don't really look or act like nobody from Baltimore, and so I get that a lot. But when I'm in LA, it's like the girls in LA, when they hear me,
You
when I call
foreign.
them shorty, or like if you call a girl in LA shorty, like they getting wet off rip. Like they not even like you're not even gonna
Let me write that down.
like,
Sam said he gotta write that down. He never
Let's
heard
take
that.
notes out here real
He
quick.
ain't heard of that one.
Like,
He ain't heard of that one. Okay, I'm gonna try that today. Hey, shorty.
they love them a Baltimore accent. So the girls in LA, like if you just talk to them, like you like, yo, what's up, shorty? They like, oh my god, you call me shorty? Like I love that. Like that's more the vibe. And I feel like I was really dragging nuts in LA. But I had a girl though, and I couldn't really do nothing. You know what I mean? When I was in LA, but I had bitches. Like I had that like really wanted me. You know what I mean? And they wanted to be in my videos and shit. But I couldn't
So
really.
you were
I couldn't
faithful.
really. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, black men don't cheat, right?
Okay.
Black men don't cheat anymore. You know what I mean?
That's it. Anymore. No, that's understandable. We all go through it. Yeah, we all go through it. It's a
We all
struggle.
go through our phases, but I feel like when I was, but also too, when I was in LA, it was like I didn't want to cheat on my girl because I knew she, she'd probably shoot me. You know what I mean? Like she'd probably shoot me. So I was like, nah, I ain't gonna do that. And I would tell the girls at the parties, because I would go into mansion parties and shit like all the time, and it was always just model bitches there. I mean, like the girls that you see on IG that got like hundreds of thousands of followers, it's like 10 of them at the party. You know what I mean? And then you got your B list, 50,000 followers there. You got your C list, 20,000 followers. So it's like everybody there is fine as shit and got followers. And they like, oh my God, like I would, you know what I mean? I would love to have a man like you. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there talking to him about my girlfriend. You know what I mean? I'm sitting there talking to him about my girl. And they like, oh, I wish my boyfriend. And I'm just like, yeah, like.
That's exactly how they do it.
That's how they sound.
That's exactly
Verbatim.
That's exactly how they talk. So, but nah,
So
LA,
do you have
LA
any
shows
regrets
me big
then?
love. Huh?
Do you have any regrets?
Regrets? Like from moving back from LA?
Right. Since you had so much luck out here.
I think, man, I wish I could. I wish I could have stayed in LA. But at the time, like I didn't have I didn't have a lot of family out there. I didn't have a big support system. So moving back to Baltimore was like the smartest thing. You know what I mean? I wish I could have figured that out to like stay out there. But at the same time, even if I would have figured it out, I would have still been alone. And I think coming back to Baltimore and being in my city, it got me to really like be close to the people that really fuck with me, as far as like my fans and shit. A lot of my fans are from Baltimore because like they hear that accent, they like, oh, he from Baltimore, so they follow me, and so they get to see me. You know what I mean? Like I go to the basketball court, they're like, yo, ain't you the dude from? You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah. They like taking pictures with me and shit. I be feeling like a celebrity in my neighborhood that I grew up in, and they like, yo, I didn't know you was from over here. I didn't know you was from here, and I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm from here, and I'm just playing basketball with them, but they feel like they playing basketball with somebody that, you know what I mean, they look up to. So I like seeing that. And so one day, you know what I mean, I'll move back to LA, but I'm going to move back on my own accord, because when I was out there,
There's too many distractions out here from you, my guy. There's too many distractions out here for you, my guy.
Nah, but the networking is great though. The networking and the people that I can meet out there is it's amazing, because that's where everybody's really at. You know what I mean? That's where the industry is. That's where, you know what I mean, I can meet different people that can plug me in different places. So, I just got, like, for me, I just got to work on, keeping a level head. And, when I move out there, obviously I'm going to have money, so I'm going to be good. So that's my focus. for sure.
All right. Y'all got any questions?
No, I was just enjoying the ride.
That was amazing, sir.
Yeah, we gonna wrap this up, Manny. So tell the fans kind of where they could find you and what you got going on next.
All right, so you can find me, and you can literally Google Manny the God. That's Manny, MANNY THAGOD, the God, all one word. You can Google that. You'll find me. I've got my Twitter on there, my Instagram, my YouTube. It even has a TikTok link, but don't trust that TikTok link because I'm not on there anymore. You'll just find my sounds in my videos because people still use them. But what's next? You never really know. You know, it's Manny's Mania. It's supposed to be random. You know what I mean? Mania is random. It's gonna hit you. It's gonna hit you from the left, from the right, from the bottom, from the top. It's gonna come wherever it wants to come from. So I kind of like to keep my page random, and I like to confuse people. I like to cause confusion. So sometimes when it seems like I'm going through something, I might just be laughing on my phone and just pretending. You know what I mean? You never know. So
I love it, man. I love it.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate you coming to the show. You're always invited here. I feel like we only got one of like 10,000 stories. So you're gonna be. You know how Boosie is always on
Vlad.
Vlad. You're gonna be Boosie to the show. All right. All right. With that being said, everybody out there, make smart decisions and always wear protection.
Raw is law. I say raw is law.
That's it. All right. Stay on the line with us real quick.